You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Syracuse's pass coverage and tackling, in my opinion, I think it can be better than what it has shown at the halfway point. And let's start off talking about the secondary, because when we get to the tackling aspect, I don't really have the advanced metrics for it. It's more of eye test. But with the secondary, I can give you more metrics on it, okay? So let's talk about the secondary. Syracuse football as a team allows 229 passing yards per game. And for some context, that is 10th in the ACC. So 10th in the ACC is not great. Obviously, it's in the bottom half, but it's also not horrific, right? It's not the worst pass defense in the conference. However, I think you have to take into account the opponents that Syracuse has played. Not that the opponents that Syracuse has played are bad. I'm not trying to minimize the competition of Syracuse. They've played 3 conference games. They've played 2 ranked teams overall. It's not that they've played poor competition. But when you look closely at the competition they have actually played, you'll notice one thing that they really all have in common, and that's that they don't have strong passing attacks, okay? And the numbers, they back this up. So I looked up where each team that they've played sits within their own conference, aside from Holy Cross, okay? I don't care about an FCS school. Ohio, all right? That was the first game of the season. The Ohio Bobcats are second worst in their conference in passing yards per game. Georgia Tech is 10th in the ACC in passing yards per game. Stanford, last in the conference. Holy Cross, as I mentioned, is FCS. UNLV, a ranked team on the road. They are still bottom 3 in their conference in passing yards per game. And then NC State, who Syracuse just beat, is 12th in the ACC in pass yards per game. So, Syracuse, once again, being 10th in the conference in pass defense on face value isn't great. It's not terrible. However, when you consider the competition in terms of passing numbers that the teams they're going up against have, it's not very good. It's something that they definitely have to improve on at the second half of the season, or at least for the second half of the season, because look, it's going to get tougher defending the pass. They got Pitt next week. Pitt is 3rd in the ACC in passing yards per game. They got Eli Holstein, who's slinging the ball around right now. Didn't have the greatest game against Cal, but for the most part, he's been very effective this season. And then, of course, Miami at the end of the year is the number 1 passing attack in the country, led by Heisman contender Cam Ward, right? Cam Ward having an exceptional year. Slowing down Miami is not going to be easy, and it's certainly going to be tougher than any of the opponents that Syracuse has faced so far this season, all right? Now, it's not all doom and gloom. I think there are a couple of things that can help this secondary out. Number 1, getting Marcellus Barnes back. Marcellus Barnes, the 4-star true freshman, he was one of Syracuse's highest-rated defenders in the first 2 games of the season before being knocked out of the game against Stanford fairly early in that game. Thought he was going to come back last week against NC State, but he was a late scratch. I think he did participate in warmups, but again, late scratch, didn't come back. Hopefully, he is good to go for Pitt. So getting arguably your number 1 cornerback, I think is definitely going to help this secondary out, especially against a team like Pitt. And number 2, this is unsung. You might not really realize it, okay? The pass rush. The pass rush has to get home for this secondary to be better. And I think it can improve. Here's where it can improve, all right? Because they don't, at least by eye test, all right? They don't generate a ton of pressure. Is that fair to say? Syracuse doesn't generate a lot of pressure when you're watching a game, right? Generally, that's how it is. And obviously now there's a lot of injuries on the defensive line, so it's not going to be easy there. However, Marlowe Wax, all ACC linebacker, could be back for the Pitt game. I think he will be. That was what the timetable suggested when Fran Brown originally said it was going to take him 6 weeks. All indications online seem to be that he is trending in the right direction for the Pitt game. It's going to help out the secondary because it's going to help out the pass rush. Here's why it helps the pass rush, okay? Marlowe Wax is not some blitzing middle linebacker, all right? But Fadil Diggs, you can make an argument, is the best defender on Syracuse. That includes Marlowe Wax. However, Fadil Diggs is a defensive end who's, since the injury to Marlowe Wax, has had to play a lot of linebacker as well. If you'll notice, sometimes he'll drop back and be a quarterback spy. Well, having Marlowe Wax back means that Fadil Diggs can pin his ears back more often and just go rush the passer. That'll help out the pass rush, which in turn will help this secondary improve in the second half of this season. So once again, the numbers don't look great for Syracuse, and they honestly look worse when you consider the competition that they have played. They have not played the most elite passing attacks in the country. But getting Marcellus Barnes back and getting Marlowe Wax back on defense should help the secondary when they are facing the tougher passing attacks in the conference, like a Pitt coming up and Miami at the end of the season. All right. So that's the secondary portion of this segment. Let's just talk about the tackling real quick. It's got to be better. Like I said, I don't necessarily have the advanced metrics for you, but I do have examples for you of missed tackles. I mean, Syracuse in the first game of the season, they missed 19 of them against Georgia Tech, against Ohio. They missed 19 tackles against Ohio. Obviously, that's a lot. For context, the next week, Syracuse definitely cleaned it up against Georgia Tech with only 6 missed tackles. But look, missed tackles are going to happen. I feel like they're letting them happen just a little bit too much. Just a little bit too much. Do you recall that 72-yard play from NC State at the end of the game in the fourth quarter where it started as like a 4-yard check down, and then all of a sudden there were 4 whiffs later and the guy almost housed it? Got 72 yards on the play. It led to an NC State field goal. Credit to the defense for forcing that field goal. But still, I mean, put the fear of you-know-what into all of us. So the missed tackles got to be better. And once again, I think Marlowe Wax coming back from injury, an all-ACC linebacker, is certainly going to help that out. All right. I think the main takeaway maybe of this entire segment is get Marlowe Wax back on the field because he's going to help out this defense tremendously. All right. So the 2 areas where I would like to see improvement in Syracuse, the pass coverage and tackling. Once again, getting Marcellus Barnes and Marlowe Wax should help pass coverage because that'll help the pass rush. And, well, tackling Marlowe Wax, all conference linebacker, will certainly help that out. All right.